Good day, everyone. Here is another recorded lecture that continues our discussion on GCORD, cultural heritage, and this time contextualizing it to local understanding or local concepts, terminologies, and situationers in the region of the Cordillera Administrative Region or regional in the Cordilleras. Okay, so making use of our PowerPoint presentation, may we have this as our guide to present the general synthesis, okay, of the materials, the reading materials that were uploaded here in earlier for your guide. So in our immediate previous discussions, we've been talking about cultural heritage as concept. And this time, we are going to localize this concept using the terminologies here, local terminologies here in the region. So we look at cultural heritage sa Tawid Cordillera. Talking about Tawid Cordillera, Tawid to mean heritage in the context of Tawid Cordillera or Tawid. It's I think it's Kankanai term. It's a Kankanai term that means heritage, and Tawid is also used in other ethnolinguist communication languages and form, which means the same thing, heritage. So here, a heritage is worthy to be conserved for the generations after us. Those of us who are using it now or living it by it now, and that we have the responsibility to recognize and conserve whatever heritage we have that we bequeathed from those who are ahead of us. So the emphasis here is that heritage is supposed to be taken care with by the current generation. So we do not just spend it, consume it, and then there's nothing to be turned over to be bequeathed further or to be given further by the next generation. So you will see here there is a great responsibility given to those who took over the heritage or the inheritance. Further, the values attached to the heritage dictate how the heritage is ascribed. Okay, so when we say ascribe, we identify ourselves with it, we give importance to it, we take good care of it, we give a certain emphasis on it. So if you talk about a particular heritage, we talk about how important that heritage is for us. So if you're talking about a certain lesson in life, it's very, very important. There is a very strong putting of importance on such heritage. If your heritage is land area, then we also develop a strong identification, a strong connection, and importance to that kind of heritage that we have. So the values attached to it dictate how the heritage is ascribed so well. Okay, you identify yourself with it, you give importance on it. Well, we have local concepts of heritage, especially articulated in terms of local terms. Like for instance, tawid here as to mean heritage, to mean mana sa Tagalog, okay? Ipinamana sa amin, tawid, the heritage, mana, is acquired from predecessors. Okay, the tawid came from someone else. The tawid was not just there and you got it all by yourself. The tawid came from someone else. It came from predecessors. So earlier we were saying we have to take good care of the tawid, the heritage, and turn that over to future generation. It's the same thing. Those of us who were ahead in terms of generation took good care of the heritage called Tawid and turned that over to us, the younger generation. There is such thing as may patawid, no? See, this is rearticulation of the word tawid or heritage or mana. May patawid means something to pass on to the next generation. So remember that the tawid is soon to be maipatawid. Okay, it does not end up in you. You do not just um, take a sole proprietorship of it. So you have to take good care of it, and when your time is done, your generation is done, it has to be maipatawid. It has to be passed on to the next generation. The tawid, mana, heritage, inheritance should be life-giving. Okay, life-giving. Said in Ilocano, okay, mangipaay itibiyag, life-giving. The tawid should have that kind of characteristic. Further, the tawid, heritage, inheritance, mana, is understood to be life nurturing. It has to be life nurturing. Said again in Ilocano language, mangduras. Mangduras iti panagbiag. Or some would say mangpaduras. It is life nurturing, no? It enriches, it nurtures life. That is one characteristic of a heritage or a tawid or a mana or an inheritance. There is also such thing as tumawid. It refers to the heir who accept the responsibility of safeguarding the matawid or the inheritance, including its attributed value so that it continues to have banag or worth, kaipapanan or meaning in kaisilbian or usage. Okay, so look at it from that concepts, the local concept of heritage. Tumawid, that is the one who accepts the mana, and you do not simply accept it as it is and use it according to how you wish it to be. So it goes along with when you accept that tawid, you are the tumawid. Okay, you accept the tawid. You also accept the responsibility of taking care. You have to safeguard. You have to make sure that the tawid does not go extinct. It has to be taken care of. Remember, the tawid has to be turned over to the next generation. Okay, so you have to safeguard the matawid, the inheritance, and including the attributed value or the importance in every good meaning that it goes along with that kind of mana or tawid. So if that is the case, as you take good care of it, it continues to have worth or banag and meaning kay papanan and usage. So imagine if you turn that over to the next generation or take over the heritage, the inheritance, the mana, the tawid, probably your children, once you have your own family. So it has to remain possessing worth, panag, meaning kay papanan, and kaisilbihan or usage. Hence, heritage is not merely a matter of right. It is more of a matter to take care of. Okay, so it is a matter to take care for. So when you have a mana, you have a tawid, it goes along with you do not have sole absolute privilege over it. Okay, so it is just a matter of right that you have to enjoy for time being, that you have to turn it over to the next generation. Okay, probably for those of you in your cultural practice and tradition, okay, also have mana or tawid in our own dialect. You may have your own tradition and you may have your own practices for that. But for us here in the Cordillera, it is seen like that. Okay, so it is a matter of responsibility there is always that kind of responsibility that is appended to tawid, and that responsibility is for you to take care, okay, and for you to make sure that it continues to have worth, meaning, usage, that when you bequeath or turn it over to the next generation, it remains to be like that. So the tawid, the heritage, is supposed to continue in perpetuity. Okay, it is supposed to be a blessing or to be enjoyed in perpetuity, generation after generation. Let's look at some concepts with regards to the Tawid, okay, in the context of the Cordillera. So there is such thing as a worldview that goes along with it. We are brought to this world not to own anything, but to become stewards of beings. Okay, that is very common among the different cultural groups here in the Cordilleras. So that is the prevailing belief that originated from our ancestors, from the early generations before us. Maybe there are those of us Cordilleras who do not maybe fully subscribe to this and who do not understand this, or who just knew this worldview just now. But remember that if you trace back to our ancestry, this is a very, very strong perception of Tawid or heritage. Okay, this was not just thought of. This is a result of interviews. This is a sort of research done by our writers. Okay, we are brought to this world not to own anything, but to become stewards of being. So there are inheritance here, there are heritage here that we have to take care of. Okay, next, in relation to that, according to the analysis or the studies done by the following, Ohayon, Fang-asan, and Dalawan sometime in 2015, they came up with these related insights that Cordillera peoples understand that the land resources are merely put under their care. So they will have to pass this one to succeeding generations. Okay, so in terms of the importance of land and other resources that are bequeathed to them as a tawid, mana, or inheritance or heritage. So the same would be the treatment of indigenous cultural communities of the Cordilleras of the tangible, intangible, and territorial properties. Tangible, these are the things that you can touch, you can perceive as they are. Intangible, these are the things that we can only notice if these are embodied or these are performed, these are demonstrated by other things. So intangible like values, spirituality, characteristics, these intangible things, and territorial properties like um, the land, like the a farm, like the domesticated animals, the domesticated plants, and so on and so forth. Okay. Molintas in 2004 also found out that inheritance or tawid is the most prized property. So if you happen to acquire your own property, the very most prized property, the very important, the very sacred, the property that you have to exert effort in taking care and protecting about, is whatever that is inherited to you or naipatawid to you, or the tawid or heritage. Further, the utilization and general concept of tawid are seen at different levels. So at certain levels or different levels, how is a tawid being taken care of, being benefited on? Let's look at this from different levels. On the levels of community, clan, filial or family, and individual level. On the level of the community, for the whole of the community, it is expected that the entire community shares in the responsibility of conserving the tawid, taking care, conserving the tawid, even if it is named or designated to individual persons that we will see later on, even if it is given to a family, still the community has the responsibility. The entire neighborhood, the entire village is responsible in helping conserve, even if it belongs to just one, two, or three family. The umili or the community is affiliated with a certain dapay. So this is the practice here in the mountain in the Cordilleras once upon a time, and it's still actually being practiced now. So as a dramatic ritual for the community to help in the responsibility of conserving the tawid, the community, or said in our local term as umili, feels that it has to be connected. It is part of a certain dapay. Okay, for the Cordilleras who are here, you would often listen to Dapayan. No? So Dapayan is a place for people to gather. It's a place for people to gather and do very important, very sacred things. So why did I say sacred? Because almost uh, all of those things that people do together, okay, are sacred. It always has a spiritual value. It always has, an attribute, okay, identified with supreme realities. Before Christianity came, this is an event that invoked the presence of Kabunyan, of the different spirits of the ancestors. So it has a ceremonial, ritual, spiritual nature. So the place where people gather, the place where people gather are called dapay. Here they do a social activity, religious activity, a political activity. That's why it is called the social, religious, and political center. Social, this is where the study. There is before there were schools. It is here where people would talk about something else, would learn from something else, would interact, would be acquainted with here where they gather together and get to know who are the new members of the family. Religious, it is here where they practice their spiritual activities. Political, it is here where they are going to discuss, okay, whom to select as the leaders of the village. It is here where the elders, the folks would come around and talk among themselves, come into consensus, and select whom to recommend to be the leaders of the community. And through here, the participants are tasked to continue also to practice the spirit of the eye. Okay, hence, we have the local term, ituloy iya ipatawid nan ugali. You have to live and pass on the culture of doing things in the dapay, of collectively taking care, conserving the any tawid, okay, dramatically in the venue of the dapay. Okay, so imagine that. Look at the phenomenon of the place called dapay. This is where people gather. Okay, this is where people come together, okay, and talk about the tawid, take care of each other, take care of the tawid. That's the reason why, and this is regular. They meet here regularly. Okay, that's why we cannot afford to be irresponsible with the tawid given to us, because come the DAPI session, we will be asked how we have been taking care and doing good with the tawid bequeathed to us. At the community level, we have such thing as Tawid Deili works. So the Tawid, the mana given to an individual or to a family, engages the entire community. So it becomes Tawid Deili. It's just like Tawid of the entire community. Okay. So that also further means that if the community is responsible, even if the tawid belongs to just one individual or a family, okay, it means that the one to whom the tawid is given has to make sure that the tawid also benefits the community. So if I were the one who is given a tawid, I make sure I do good things about the tawid, and then from my being good, by doing good as the owner of the tawid, people will be able to benefit from my goodness, the community. So it is also mutual. Okay? So on the other end, the tinawid or the tawid itself, the tinawid or the nepatawid is supposed to be protected, taken care of, and nurtured by the community. Okay? All right. So we have been repeating that already. Still on the community level, it affects the life of the community. Ayan, so it has to benefit the community. The continuity of such include the community. I mean, in the continuity of such care or involvement of the community in the care and conservation of the tawid. If you talk about community, it includes the clan, the family, the individuals, and vice versa. So community means it includes clan, families, individuals. When you say vice versa, individuals, families, and clans cannot just stay by themselves. They have to uh, join the community. They also have to feel that they are responsible, okay, to the community they belong to. There, that's the community level. How about the Tawid? How is it operating on the clan level? Clan is a conglomeration of family members related together. So a clan is bestowed the responsibility to take care of the Tawid just the same. The clan is a microcosm, a small um, the small it's the clan is a conglomeration of family. It's a small unit, or it's a small type of community. So it is bestowed with the same responsibility to help take care of the tawid. The community members who benefit from the tinawid must partake in safeguarding such. So that was what I was talking earlier, no? That it mutually also benefits. But more emphatically here, especially if you were benefited with a particular tawid from someone else in the community, it is your moral responsibility to help protect the tawid that also benefited you. Okay? All right. Still on the clan level, the community recognizes the clan as the primary caretaker, as it is also the role of the community to defend the clan or the tawid in times of interference or encroachments. Okay? When the tawid is confronted with issues, okay, like interference, encroachments, proprietorship, who owns it, all right, or anything threatens the tawid to be destroyed, to go extinct. Okay, so in the community, the first to take the responsibility of helping take care of the tawid are the clan. So before we rely on any other members of the community, you look at this, the individual who owns the tawid, his family, immediate family, his immediate neighborhood, etc., are supposed to be primarily responsible before you ask those who are not blood related or connected to the immediate family. Okay? So do not run to the farthest neighbor if you have not made your family members, your other relatives more responsible. in helping you take care of the tawid. Okay. On the level of the family, how is tawid seen? The tawid under the care of the family may also directly impact community activities. It becomes a vehicle of cultural transmission and continuity. So, um, the tawid, the use of the tawid is not just individual to the person to whom the tawid is given. The tawid is not supposed to be benefiting just the individual. The tawid primarily benefits the family of the individual to whom the tawid is given. Okay, so educate your family members about the tawid that you got, and engage your family members in the collective responsibility of taking care of the tawid or the mana. So it becomes a family affair. So you will not see just the individual to whom the mana is named that alone in taking care and using the mana, even if it is you know, unilaterally named that the mana, the tawid, is for the eldest son or for a particular child in the family of that particular child is involved automatically. Okay. The question is, what if the person to whom a mana is given, tawid is given, is single? Well, the immediate family of the single person is involved here. So the family becomes a vehicle of cultural transmission and continuity. Okay, the story about the mana and the values that go along the mana and how mana tawid, in how it should be prepared to be turned over. So this has to be taught to the family, the level of family. So in terms of educating everyone about tawid, that is the responsibility of the family. A family tawid becomes an impetus for families to live the customs that were set forth by the community, especially on how to take care of the tawid or the mana. Meaning to say, the first responsible people in benefiting, taking care, in conserving the mana are the concerned family. And they have to first move. Okay, the tawid is the very principle that the family with whom a tawid is given is duty bound to cooperate, okay, to be a good member of the community. In other words, if you have a tawid, it should help make you become a good citizen of the community. Okay, so by doing your share, by obeying the rules, by being part of the solution, and not being the cause of the problem in the community. Now let's look at how tawid impacts the individual person. The patawid is transferred to an individual person, of course, even if we were saying that it is enjoyed together by the family of the individual person. Usually, these are properties that are bestowed to them. Okay, and the reason why it has to be bestowed on an individual is so that they can identify um who possesses the right, who is the most authority, who has the authority in deciding over a particular tawid or mana. That's why the tawid still has to be named after an individual. Okay. By virtue now, the tawid is given to the individual in the following forms. By virtue of their birthright, okay? For instance, if you are the eldest, normally what is your tawid? If you are the youngest, normally what is your tawid? In common practice in the Philippines, in among Filipinos, if you are the youngest, automatically the family residence goes to you. Okay, the main residence, the house, okay, that was put up by your parents. So when time comes that your parents will not be living anymore, they are not anymore alive, okay, they go to the next life, to whom shall the house be given? So that is normally by birthright given to the youngest. Okay, the eldest and the other siblings, their mana, their tawid are individually respectively identified. But by all means, in the Philippine setting, the um, house, the family residence is normally given to the youngest. Okay. Also, the tawid is given this way during their milestone. Okay, meaning um, those who are bequeathed or given the mana. Yan. Okay. If in case, if in case, as they are enjoying the proprietorship of the mana, in case something goes wrong, in case they commit um, something that is unwanted in the community. In other words, they misbehave. In other words, they don't become good because of the mana. Okay? Normally, um, something has to be done with their names. So, for instance, um, their names have to be changed, okay, or they can maintain their name. So for instance, during the time that they were taking care, or the tawid is given them, if they've been good because of the tawid, well, they continue to enjoy the name that is given to them. Okay, but if in case something goes wrong, they do not become good citizens, and the worst is they become individuals in the family, individuals in the community, turn out to be um the cause of inconveniences, okay, the cause of distraction and so on, then they have to undergo a ritual so that their name will be changed. Because by tradition, there might be something in the name that has caused you, okay, to misbehave because of your tawid. Now, that is the gobao. Okay, these are names bestowed on people, okay, and those names normally come from the ancestors who had been doing good. In the mountain province, okay, the mountain province, this is still dramatically practiced now. So, aside from the formal name that you also have your Igorot name. And the Igorot names are lifted. These are actually names of ancestors had been doing great and good. Okay, in the hope that once this is given to you as your Igorot name apart from your formal name, that the goodness of the ancestor who originally has that name will transfer on you and will continue to reverberate in you as you enjoy the Tawid. Okay, that is the reason why if you had been bad in your lifetime, expect that your name will never be given again to the succeeding generations. Okay, no one will ever get your name again and give that to a newborn baby. Okay, gubao. There is also beads being given, during matrimony. When a woman marries, there are beads that are placed over her. Okay, this one's also depends on how him or the family or his capacity is able to participate in the care of the tawid. Now, you would notice that now we understand why in the Cordilleras among the Igorots, for instance, you see some old folks with tattoos. Okay? So, tattoos. The tattoos given them will also identify that they had been privileged to be given certain kind of heritage or inheritance or tawid or mana. So it appears that the tattoo will identify their state of privilege, having been equated a particular mana. So it by that tattoo, it means it communicates to anyone that this guy is bequeathed a particular, or this person is bequeathed a particular mana, tawid, or inheritance that is also looked up to as a very responsible person in taking care, in conserving particular mana bequeathed to him or her. Okay, so those who would see you with kinds of tattoos that is, communicating or telling people that you are given a responsibility to take care of a mana, will help come around, okay, and assist you thereon. That's why now we see that the tattoos are not just for aesthetic purposes. It communicates something, a greater responsibility. So for the individual person, by what right do or does an individual person, what are the bases? By what right does an individual person given the mana or supposed to be enjoying the mana or the tawid? So when the person has sustained deeds that are unworthy, remorseful, and disgraceful, or when such individual is sickly, gloomy, and obscure, the elders may decide after consultation, including through a ritual, spiritual ceremony, consult the spirits of the ancestors, that the name of that person is changed, that may the new name springboards a new identity as guided by the spirit of the ancestors. Okay, this was what I was trying to explain earlier. No? That while you are taking responsibility over a particular tao, when something goes wrong, then they have to change your name. Otherwise, if you are having difficulty, they have to give you a name after the ancestors had been great in taking care of a tawid that was once bequeathed him or her. The transference of leadership in the Ili, that is also considered tawid. When you are designated, okay, when you are chosen to lead a village. Yan. So leadership in the Ili, leadership in the village is not just marked by apprenticeship. Okay? So you do not just because you're interested, you undergo a training, a formation to become the village chieftain, the barangay official. No, it's not like that. Okay, it's not necessarily like that. So the transference of leadership, okay, the leadership being amana, shall have to be referred to the elders, okay, and they will study your level of acceptability, okay, there. So, in order for the person interested or designated to be the leader of the ili or the village, you have to be accepted. You have to be accepted by the village itself, but more specifically by the elders. Okay, by the elders. You know, in the Cordillera communities, anything that affects the life of the community will have to be referred to the elders, okay, to the old folks. Now, the elders will look into your integrity, okay, and suitability there. So the elders will consult your kakailian, your village. Okay, they will consult the village in terms of your integrity, in terms of your level of acceptability. Normally, They would look at integrity when you can prove that once you were able to, you become responsible of things entrusted to you. Okay, and of course, one of them is what is your participation in the protection care of the tawids that are in the village. So that is one. That is one. Okay, that is one of the selection criteria by the elders. Still on the level of the individual person, when it is decided by the person who bestows a tawid that a selected person continues the legacy, so from your parents, they give you the tawid. Okay, it is the community who enshrines that patawid to be manifested by the tumawid. So meaning to say, there is no secret deal in receiving a tawid. No? When you're given a tawid, the community would know. In fact, there is a ritual where the community is invited to witness the turnover or the endowment of the tawid. And earlier, we talked about the dapay. Normally, it is done in the dapay, the venue. Okay? Which we call now the dapayan. Okay? So, there is a ritual that will be done. Okay? And there will be festivity that would be observed also. And the community will be there to witness the formal enshrinement or the formal endowment of the heritage, the tawid, or the mana. Especially, if you become chosen, if you are chosen to be the leader, so if the heritage talks about trust in leadership in the village, so everyone must be there to witness, okay, the enshrinement of the tawid on you. The transfer of knowledge is defined by the journey of a person. So earlier when we were talking about discussing about cultural heritage, we said that knowledge can also be a tawid. It can also be a heritage. So however, the knowledge, the wisdom of things can also be transferred on you if your credibility is such that it can be proven by how you have been living as a person. So the journey of your own life, your life, how has it evolved? Okay, they look into how your life has evolved, how you have been ever since as a village member, okay, living in a community, in your family. So they look into your credibility before you will be taught, before they transfer certain wisdom. So for instance, before you will be recognized as a member of the elderly and become member of the wise men in the village, the elders are always consulted. They have to look into the life that you have been. Have you been part of, have you been engaged in doing great responsibilities? Have you been a person who took care of, or who was able to take care of a mana or a tawid entrusted to you, or entrusted to you, to the family, or to someone else? Because earlier we said that the community is supposed to help taking care of the mana or the tawid. Are you part of that? So they look into your um, credentials in a way. Okay, how you have been a person all these years. Elders would dictate what the person may ought to know and when it is time to bestow such knowledge. Okay, so there, even the basis for doing things. That's why people before in the, well, it is suggested that there are some now who are doing that. They always have to run to the elders and ask the elders to finally help them decide. Okay, the person decide there. So there is always the tradition of referring matters to um, the elderly or the elder. So when you become officially part of the elders group, okay, then they have to also orient you. They also have to inform you of certain things that you ought to know as part of the leadership or the eldership in the community. Still on the individual person, only when the person has considerable understanding in appreciation, in ability to interpret and rightfully use the knowledge being transferred that he is bequeathed with such. Okay? So we're talking about knowledge, wisdom, as tawid, as a mana, as an inheritance. So imagine that only when the person has considerable understanding, appreciation, ability to interpret and rightfully use the knowledge being transferred that is bequeathed with such. So maybe if we look at it now in the on the level of the students, you know, you are going to vote for your officials in the student government, in your organization. Also before you endow that kind of right for a person to take the leadership, you look into these things. Does the person clearly understand, knows the role and his responsibilities in the community? So, if you run as an officer of your organization, you do not just, have yourself voted and then do nothing at all. So, in relation to TAWID, once you are voted as an officer of the organization, one of the things that you have to look into are the properties. The properties of the organization. Where are the properties of the organization that were accumulated, gathered in the previous administration and leadership? Okay, and when your time is up, you need to turn over that. So it's just like a towel. You have to turn it over to the next set of officers. You have to make sure that it is taken care of so well and turn it over entirely protected and secured. Okay, so that is the implication that we can draw from this in the context of our experience today. So, all right, let's go into certain synthesis points. Okay, some these are lifted from the documents that were given to you as your reading material, still related to how cultural heritage is localized in the experience of the Cordilleras. So, first, the realities of Tawid are marked by the worthiness of the Tumawid. Okay? So, are you worthy to um, do not only who does not only benefit from the Tawid, but are you worthy of taking care of the Tawid so it could be turned over to the next generation after you? In the Cordillera, a Tawid is not idly constrained in the idea of being a birthright, meaning you ought to have this because you are the youngest. Normally, it's like that. I mean, we were talking about the family residence. If you are the youngest, but you can never be trusted with the residence, still it cannot be given to you. Okay? Or the normal practice is it cannot yet, not yet. Maybe later, when you become good at being the youngest, it will soon be turned over to you. But until you have not proven that you are worthy to be tumawid of the tawid, to really to inherit the inheritance, then the residence cannot be with you for a while. Probably it could be entrusted to any one of your siblings. So it is not a birthright. Okay? So the basis is the exemplification of the values and meanings ascribed to the tinawid. So, for instance, the tawid given to you is the ranch, where you domesticate animals. Okay, so do you have the ability to continue the essence of the ranch? Can you domesticate animals? Can you manage the ranch in a way that it continues to be an avenue for domesticating animals? So it can never happen that the tawid should malfunction under your care. It can never be, no? So there is no other option than to make sure that once you tawid it, it's given to you, okay, that you have to prove that you protect, you take care of the tawid, including the values, the meanings, and the symbols ascribed to this tawid. Okay? It is the role of the present generation to safeguard the tinawid for future generations to appreciate. So, for example, it is my current responsibility to educate my children, the next generation, to educate my children about what the Tawid is all about, the Tawids that we have, and how it should be taken care with, what has to be done with the Tawid. Okay? There, it is me, the present, who has that responsibility to educate and to ensure that future generations, once it is their turn to take care or to enjoy the benefits of the Tawid, would know, would understand what the Tawid is all about. I think this is one of the struggles that we have now in the Cordilleras for us Igorots, no? You look, no one among our not exactly. I'm not generalizing that no one among the younger generation would like to work in the farm. Hmm. Buti pa yung iba, no? Sabi nila, lumaki ako sa farm. Okay. How about you? Can you take pride in going to the farm? Okay. If you have a farm, if there is a farm that is bequeathed, na ipamana. Okay, I had been using the word bequeath, na ipamana. Okay, so that's our role, the present generation, to safeguard the tinawid for future generations to appreciate. So if look at this, the next generation, once they irresponsibly, they become careless with the mana bequeathed to them, it partly to be blamed are the generation before them, the immediate generation before them, because they failed in educating the next generation on how the mana, the tawid, is supposed to be taken care with. The tumawid, okay, is not the owner. If you were given a tawid, you do not entirely own that. In the indigenous lands, in our practice as indigenous peoples, the tawid or the tumawid, okay, yung nagmana is just a caretaker, is just a custodian, is just a steward. Steward means you're a caretaker who keep safe the tawid. Okay? Yeah. Siguro yung mga current generation of Cordilleras namamangha, "Ganun ba yun?" Okay. Maybe that's the reason why even as Cordilleras have to learn Cordillera heritage because tayo mismo, we are not doing this. We do not even know these things. Okay? There. So moving on, the Tawid is impetus to cultural manifestation and more so the continuity of such manifestations. Meaning to say, the Tawid should continue to make alive, the Tawid should continue to highlight your good cultural practices. Meaning you are a person who turns out to be good and continue to be good, okay, because of the lifestyle that was ingrained in you when you were growing up until you become adult. Okay, so the tawid goes along with the good nature that one has. Okay, so we have to manifest the good lifestyle. Okay, and continue to manifest that good lifestyle when we are accorded tawid. There are people when they're given the naipamana sa kanila yung bank account, wow, maraming pera, no? Nag-iiba yung kanilang ugali. Pag naipamana sa kanila yung bahay, nag-iiba na yung kanilang ugali. Naipamana sa kanila yung lupa, nag-iiba na yung kanilang ugali. Nako, that's a violation of the first item here. Huh? The more tawid you have, the more you become a good citizen of your community, a good member of the family. So, this will also neutralize the problem of because of the tawid, the family unity is destroyed. Diba? So if you are, well, how the parents would wish that each one is given the tawid, but if the tawid could not be divided among the siblings, only one would be, uh, you know, given such tawid. So in order to dispel possible disunity in the family, whoever is given a tawid should also exercise a particular sharing of lifestyle with the siblings in a way that the siblings will not feel disadvantaged by the tawid singularly given to you. Okay, so by the tawid we continue to manifest a good breeding. Neglect of tawid affects family and community relations in even cultural communities. So once you neglect the caring at the outset, once you do not know the meaning of tawid, you do not understand your responsibility over tawid, and you eventually neglect that, it normally becomes one reason that there arises a family problem, a community problem. Okay? So, maybe we can study this, no, separately. Problems in the family, problems in the community would happen because there was a mismanagement of tawid. Okay, so mismanagement of tawid would normally, at the olden times, during the olden times, it's the very reason that family gets broken, community, neighborhood gets broken. The tawid is generally the identity of individuals, clans, village, and ethno-linguistic group. Okay, so later we will see this. The tawid is a basis for identifying who we are. But it says here, whatever tawid that you have, it will also identify who you are, your clan, the village, and the ethno-linguistic group you belong to. Okay, meaning the group, your group by virtue of the language you commonly speak. So the ethno-linguistic group of Kankanaes, of Ibaloys, of Tagalog, of Ilocano, of Cebuano. Okay, so we become a group because of the language we commonly use. That's ethno-linguistic group. The levels of tawid are generally interrelated. Okay, so we have seen the levels of tawid earlier: community, then clan, then family, then individual. The tawid cannot exclusively be enjoyed at by the community and then not the individual, or by the individual and not the community. So whether individual, family, clan, or community, once the tawid is there, everyone is involved. Everyone will benefit. The only thing is it is named after an individual person. Okay? So once there is a tawid, it could make good the life of everyone. It could make bad the life of everyone. Okay? So the effect of the tawid, positive, could affect all. Negative could also affect all. All right. So tawid, so for a while, no? Okay. So, all right. Here, no? I was saying about tawid that we have that are given to us could develop our identity. So tawid as identity creator, how does it happen? Tawid emphasizes a decree of identity. When I say decree, the tawid, okay, will also define a particular identity that you have a right over with. So, by virtue of your tawid, you will be classified to be a Kadangyan. Okay, so there becomes an automatic virtual law that you have to be respected as a Kadangyan, or one of the richest, okay, or one of the leaders. You are entitled to become a village leader. So it goes along with that, no? Once you're given the tawid of leadership, okay, that automatically you enjoy a particular decree, okay, of being the leader someday soon. Yan. So, kung minsan, parang yan yung nangyayari, ano, naging presidente ang Aquino, sigurado may anak ni Aquino presidente. Naging presidente ang Marcos, sigurado may anak si Marcos na presidente. So, parang nagiging ganyan yung tradition. Now, a researcher by the name Mark Peterson in 2018 observed that in recent times today, the tendency to perceive people as possessing identities are culturally determined rather than the outcome of individual accomplishments. So our identity does not come from our accomplishments. Our identity, we are not identified with accomplishments, with what you are able to do, with the results that we generate. But our identity, okay, are defined by our cultural affiliation, by the group to whom our lifestyle is made similar. Okay? So our normally, before you will be seen to be a person who has a high educational degree, you will be first identified as Akan Kanaoy, as a Cebuano, as an Ilocano by virtue of the language that you speak. Nelson and Thorell in 2018, our cultural heritage contributes to the shaping of national stereotypes and regional identity, and it is a modern or postmodern reflection of the past. Okay, later you will see this. In terms of calling the Igorots, sino ba talaga ang gumawa ng pangalan na Igorots at sino ba ang nagsabi na yung Igorots ay Igorots? Sino ang nag-define, nagbigay sa kanilang pangalan? Is it the Igorots themselves or it is a national stereotype? Yan. Parang gradually nabubuo kung ano yung concept ng Igorot, and it is accepted by the entire country, and then doon individually na i-ascribe tayo, Igorot ka, mag-Igorot, Igorot. Okay? There. So, our identity, our identity, which is lifted from the lifestyle that we live, from the groups we share the lifestyle with. So among the Ilocanos, the Tagalogs, the Igorots, the Cebuanos, okay, there exists a national consciousness, okay, that indeed identify you to be, to be belonging to that kind of culture. So it says here, the Tawid, according to Nielsen and Thorell, the cultural heritage that you are enjoying together with your cultural group normally, okay, are the basis in identifying you as a group or as a family. Recently, people of the region self-ascribe themselves as Cordillerans. So, ito na, yung discuss natin. But while sharing the same history to have not been subjugated, okay, we were not colonized, and we have not allowed colonization to affect us as well, they have not since cooperatively identified themselves under one tribe or identity. Meaning, here, different groups. I mean, there are different groups in the Cordilleras, but for us to have claim that we are Cordillerans, altogether, we are still discussing that. We are still working on that today. If we call ourselves, belonging to the region of the Cordillera and calling ourselves as Cordillerans, okay, and from that, what is our cultural heritage? What is our cultural identity? Okay, so we are still ascertaining that though. But those who affirm, those who made it phenomenal that we are Cordillerans are national consciousness. That's why even those who are outside the Cordilleras were one in helping us to okay, we are Cordillerans. Okay? So, if you ask the Cordillerans today, we are still working hard. Okay? We have not been cooperative enough in agreeing I'll give an example. I was talking about the migration of the Cordilleras Native Region to Cordillera Autonomous Region. So how many tribes did we have? You look at it, it always fail. So collectively, we have not been very cooperative to really define our regional identity. Okay? So Castro in 2015, in the meantime that we were working on that, people outside the Cordilleras, people in the entire country and even the world, continue to ascribe us as Cordillerans. So they are the ones affirming our regional identity. Castro in 2015 noted, it is a myth to portray Cordillera society as belonging to homogeneous culture. What does that mean? Okay? It is a misnomer. It is just an imagination to think that the Cordilleras have one common culture. Because if you look at it, the Cordillera is a conglomeration of different, diverse, distinct, beautiful cultures. Crisologo Mendoza and Digaer also in 2001 said, identification as Igorots is not always accepted. Denotice that. So more specifically, when we talk about Igorot, sino bang nagsabi? Ito sinasabi ko kanina, sino bang nagsabi na kami Igorot? Ako, kailan ko ba naging fully conscious na tinanggap and felt proud I am an Igorot? Okay, so, well, it is on my superficial thoughts. Alam ko Igorot ako kasi nandito ko sa Montañosa. Okay? I belong to the ethno-linguistic group identified na mga Igorots. Okay? There. And later on, nung tinitingala ang mga Igorots, so sino tumingala? Outsiders, no? Nagiging lumalalim yung aking pagtanggap at pagmamahal at pag-identify ng aking sarili that I am an Igorot. Then later on, as I mature, nakikita ko na, Igorot or not, especially if you call me Igorot, marami din naman akong maiaambag, marami din naman akong makatangian that are also outstanding, no? That are also, phenomenal. So, because of that, I'm very proud. I'm very proud to have claimed I am an Igorot because meron din akong, magagawang phenomenal. Personally, yun bang alam ko may talents, may abilities, may nagagawa tayo. Yun bang yung kinikwento ko sa inyo in terms of paghanap ng trabaho. Hindi ako naghanap ng trabaho. Ang trabaho ang humanap sa atin. Promotion ang humanap sa atin. So with that, ba't ako ganun? They call me Igorot. So I'm proud to be an Igorot. Okay, so yung pagtatanggap ko na identity ko is a combination of personal, individual, and national or people outside the group helping me to admit. Hanggang ngayon, ang akala siguro ng mga hindi taga Cordilleras, ang akala nyo siguro, lahat kaming nandito, we feel the same intensity of pride na tawagin namin sarili na Igorots. Meron yung they prefer to be called in another term. Not because they do not like Igorot, but they would like to be called in another term. May mga ganyan. Later makikita natin yan dito. So, it was through outsiders labeling that they were generally named Igorots. Yan, okay, next. There was a widespread acceptability of such label, especially in municipalities and provinces outside the Kankanaey and Ebolay domains. Yan, so mukhang those originally accepted they are Igorots are the Kankanaey and Ebolay. Okay, the others, still had to go through a process. Add to that the misnomers or prejudice and negative connotations. Okay, misnomer mean they do not exist in reality. They are just imagination. Prejudice, these are unfounded. They are negative connotations that have been attributed to the general term Igorot. Okay, so of course, there are misperceptions about Igorot, and because of these misperceptions, okay, some Igorots did not like to have this name as the same. So this accounts to non-acceptability of various ethno-linguistic group of such identity here inside. Okay, mismo taga Cordillera. People in the Cordillera identify themselves with their settlements and or with the institutions within such settlement. They identify themselves with where they are located, where they are residing. Okay, and also with the institutions that exist in such settlements. What do we mean by institution that exists in that settlement? If they are farmers, if they are the traders, if they are the miners, if they are the educators. So these are institutions. These are established process, established group, established structure, procedure existing in where they're residing. When presenting themselves to a more diverse audience, they would instead use their ethno-linguistic affinity or the province where they settled. Okay? So, uh, ikaw, uh, anong tribe ka? Taga Davao po ako. Taga Benguet po ako. Okay? Ikaw, anong tribe ka? Kankanaey po ako. Because Kankanaey ang salita mo. So, there, ethno-linguistic affinity in the province where we are residing. Normally, ito ang ginagamit natin, okay, to identify ourselves. So, later, sa aming mga Igorots, pero hindi lahat, okay, nung sumisikat ng term na Igorots, ay, Igorot po ako. Dali lang ganun, no? Pero nung araw, okay, it was not so much. In realizing that they share a common history, vulnerability, and aspiration for inclusivity and self-governance, the idea of a Cordilleran identity progress. So it was just later on. Okay? Sa bagay, kailan na muli nag-umpisa na gamit ang term na Cordillera? Di ba? It was in 1987 by virtue of the Executive Order. Okay, 1987. So from then on, nagamit yung Cordilleran. So hanggang ngayon, minumuni-muni pa ng mga iba, okay, ang ano ang isang Cordilleran. Okay, sa ngayon, mas matimbang pa rin ang Igorot sa concept. Okay, kaya yung iba naman who are not born here, do not have the blood of the Igorot, they identify themselves as Igorot by, anong tawag doon? Paano sinabi yun? I think by, is it by association? By association and by acculturation. In fairness, no? In fairness, there are those who are not, their blood is elsewhere, but in terms of culture, they were born here, they embraced the culture, almost everything except the blood. Okay? So, of being an Igorot. But in terms of being Cordilleran as a region, we are still trying to mend our regional identity. Hopefully, when we have the Cordillera Autonomous Region, that we will finally give a name, okay, to also this identity. Okay. Now, there is another point here. So, Dr. Lero in 2021. Okay. All right. So, for a while. Okay, so just read for a while. All right. So, Dr. Lero in 2021 noticed that Cordillerans generally share common belief and ritual, but they have clear regional variations in terms of cultural traits and social structure. So, they can share rituals, but they're very, very aware that by virtue of diversities, they also differ. So, we are Cordillerans. We dance the tayaw, we dance the gong, we play the gongs, but there are specific way of beating the gongs, of using the gongs, the rituals, using the cultural dances. Buendia in 1987 noticed the concrete realities of the Igorot society indicate that its common culture is a distinct social system from the majority people system. Their struggle to defend and preserve it have enhanced awareness of a common Cordilleran national identity. Okay, there. So it was first a local consciousness. Okay, it existed from the village, and then later shared with other villages, and later on shared with other provinces, and later the Cordillera Administrative Region is created. So we need to evolved that way. We had to look for, in spite of our diversities, okay, because of the subcultures that we have, or diverse cultural growth by virtue of our ethno-linguistic association, we are still trying to look for, okay, common cultural identity. And as I was telling you, hopefully when we will be able to pursue the Cordillera Autonomous Region, that we will formally name also the cultural or regional identity. Okay? All right. So, okay. So, also apologies for that. Let me forward the slides. There are historical evidences that admits a common identity within and outside the region. If you talk about Cordillera identity. The writings and translations of William Henry Scott in 1976 and 1994 regarding the Cordilleras describes to us that in actuality, the cultural manifestations of people as far as Laguna, Panay, the groups in Visayas and Mindanao have some similarities to what we are being practiced in the Cordillera. So our practices here are not exclusively different. It also has some similarities with those who are diverse communities, cultural communities in the entire country, especially those who belong to other islands. No, because even if we are, let's say, distantiated from each other because of geographical location, we belong to different islands. Still, there are some similarities. So why are we talking about similarities? Okay, because that is a basis in the idea there is soon we can come up with a regional identity, a name for our regional identity. Okay, because in spite of some diversities of culture in the Cordilleras, there are certain similarities, just like what was noticed, okay, with the Cordillera region and the other regions. Other historical evidences that admits a common identity within and outside the region, there are certain findings that scholars and Cordillera studies came up with. Like for instance, there may be a Cordillera nation as linked in intertribal affairs. Okay, so from marriages, intermarriages, you are Akan Kanay, but you will work in Kalinga, you are assigned in other places by virtue of your work, and you will be able to establish and find out for yourself, oh, there are commonalities among what we do in spite that we belong to different languages. And from there, we will be able to patch up certain common identity. Okay? So this is more so defined by the autonomy of each group, that while they are enjoying self-governance, they subdue themselves in intertribal relations. So Kalinga by themselves, Apayao, Benguet, Mountain Province, but there are times that we have to work and collaborate together, and in that process, we are able to create certain lifestyles, certain structures, institutions, processes, and things where we are able to do things together in spite of our cultural diversities. And from there, we will be able to create common identity. Okay? Uh, okay. So further additional studies, it marks a nation where no group is dominant over each other but are interacting, promoting coexistence. Something that was noticed is that whenever said that one cultural group is better over the others, probably before, but later on when we are being educated, we realize that, you know, uh, cultural identities brought about by cultural heritages are unique in themselves. They are very beautiful in themselves. You cannot, compare with others as to which one is better. In itself is also best. Okay. In other words, it is unlikely. it is illogical. It is illogical to compare one culture to another and say that one culture is better than that culture. That's illogical. That is unthinkable. Okay, so more and slowly we are realizing that each culture, by virtue of the heritage that they have, is unique and good in itself. So the Budong Pechen is an example of this. Okay, so Budong. I learned about this one at those times when there are conflicts. There are conflicts, and conflict sometimes would imply one is, stronger over the other. Okay, one is a tribe that's better over the other. So because of the Budong, okay, one of the things that the Budong is emphasizing is that each tribe is unique. Each tribe is very privileged. Each tribe has rights to be respected, and therefore the Budong is supposed to patch up differences. Okay, this is very strong in Kalinga. All right. So mutual respect for existence is also evident in intertribal connections, as strengthened by deeds of kinship. Okay, so intermarriages, kinship, no? The Kankanais marry the Kalingas. I mean, the Benguet people marry Kalinga. So there is already intermarriage. So you can see that in spite of different language, different culture, the diversity of cultural heritage, a family can still evolve. And because the family has evolved outside exclusive culture, okay, so as a Kankanaey, you do not only marry a Kankanaey. As an Ibaloy, you do not also do the same thing. There are intermediates. Now, no, Igorots marrying Bisaya and vice versa, Tagalog, Ilocano. All right? And later, nag-click naman sila as a family. No? That means that they can actually blend. So from this kind of microcosm, we can also possibly realize that in spite of our diversity, we can come up with a regional identity brought about by our common regional or cultural heritage. Inter-village solidarity are marked by inter-village pacts. Okay, there. Inter-village pacts, agreements. Intermarriages are promoted, and when this happens, the marriage dictates the expansion of inter-village associations. Okay, I already explained that. Having a Cordillera Okay, having a Cordillera regional identity or Cordillera nation did not mature in the past. Individual identity was ascribed by people to their territories, meaning your identity was more identified with your residence, with your province. Okay, but not as Cordillera identity. Not even the ethno-linguistic groups that was labeled to them. Okay, so Kankanaey, Ibaloy, Tagalog, hindi pala Tagalog is outside the Cordillera, no? So, but later on, okay, there are Tagalogs residing already in the Cordillera. Okay, so well, before we are so divergent. Okay, we are so divergent in terms of identity. We are so emphatic of our being Benguet, Kalinga, Apayao, and by virtue of the language that we speak, ethno-linguistic, okay? And that's the reason why it did not matter for us to come up with a regional identity. All the while, we thought that our regional identity is being Igorots. But later on, when from the lowlands, other from Visayas, from Tagalog, they migrated here in the mountain provinces. Okay, and then the name Cordilleran was created that everyone ascribed to the identity of being a Cordilleran. Okay, so for instance, the people of Besao have once not ascribed themselves as Iaplay or Ibesao, but they identified themselves as Ipayo, Ambagyo, Padanganan. Payo, Ambagyo, Padanganan, I think are barangays, if I'm not mistaken. So these are actually names of places. So they did not call themselves as people of Besao. Besao is a municipality. Okay, but they identify themselves with where they're specifically located. Just like us, no? I am from Benguet, but when I go to Manila and people ask me from where I am, okay, and um, I claim I'm from Benguet, and then when they learn I'm residing in Baguio, taga Baguio ka pala. Oh, di ba? So where do you reside? Baguio. Taga Baguio ka pala. Saan ka nakatira? Ah, sa Isabela. Taga Region 2 ka pala. Okay, taga Isabela. You are known by the place, no? You are residing with. Okay? During the colonization period, there was an unconscious movement that by defending their territories, values, and beliefs, a village or a group was also defending the whole of that described as Cordillera Nation. Okay? So, if there is one thing that characterizes the Igorot, we did not just yield. We resisted. We resisted colonial influences. Maybe they have taken over our place, but we did not totally ascribe to their values, to their lifestyle. So we still maintained our own original traditions and practices. Okay, there. So in the process of defending our indigenous way of life, we have learned what it is to be indigenous. We have become conscious of our indigenous identity. Okay, so we have seen that there are things that we can always ascribe to if we are being asked to identify our identity as a region. So when I say our Igorots, they are protector of the forest, they are hard worker, and so on and so forth. It's because of those things that we have been doing, especially the time of our ancestors. Not allowing themselves to be governed by Spanish colonizers and not consenting to the assimilation of Western philosophies while fostering enculturation along the way has made them unique from the rest of the archipelago. So, yun, I just said that. The unrest around the region during the 1970s, 1980s, martial law, and what else? There are those who wanted to take our lands, convert them into dams, convert them into hydro, into mining industries, and we fought. Our ancestors fought, created a form of response among villages and ethno-linguistic group to form an identity. There, from what they're able to do, okay, they were able to come up with an identity. Palaban, di ba? Palaban. Protector of their lands. Okay, what else? These are some of our identity. We protect our land. We take care of our land. Okay? There. That was long time ago. Because now, no less than the Igorots have been selling their own lands to people. That's why. Imagine that in Baguio. Okay, the original owners of Baguio, where are they now? They're not in Baguio. Their original vast tract of land are owned by business entities. Okay, all right. Labrador in 1997 calls this as Igorot ethnicity. Take note of this. Igorot ethnicity. It is a product of forged alliance due to threats of development aggression and perceived to external challenges that further emerges higher order ethnic collectivities. Okay, development aggression. In the guise of development, so development are introduced. We will create dams, we'll have mines so that we can cement, we can concrete, we can have source of water for irrigation, for electricity, etc., etc. Well, there are things that it could develop, but development aggression is that development destroys something else. It destroys something else. Development aggression is the destruction of treasured elements because of the introduction of some development projects. Okay, there. So all the more because of aggression, the Igorots came together, supported each other, and from that kind of working together, they realize greater identity that they have in common. Okay, so that's Igorot ethnicity, and later on, it turned out it became a little bit complicated, extensive, and called higher order ethnic collectivities. In many instances of disruptions, people of the Cordillera guarded their worldviews, conserved their tawid, and protected their identities. Okay? Other situation of unrest. The people around the Cordillera have shown a pride of regional heritage that when a textbook depicted Igorots in other indigenous peoples with prejudice, unfounded definition of who we are, there was a widespread expression of uproar. Likely, di ba? Yung sinabi nila na tayo ay Ita. Doon sa, anyway, kilala, alam naman ng lahat ito, no? Doon sa documentary ginawa ni Karen Davila, and then there is another one na na-interview niya na nag-migrate doon sa Itugon, tapos na-identify tayo na Ita. So, di ba? Umangal ang mga Igorots. Igorot may buntot, mga umangal, mga Igorots. Ano pa ba? Igorots kulot, mga ganyan. Umangal. Okay, ano pa? Nung may isang TV show, tapos sinabi doon, wini-welcome yung kasama nilang host, tapos sabi, saan ka galing? Ba't wala ka ng isang linggo? Nasa Baguio ako, galing ako Baguio. Kaya pala amoy igorot ka. Ganon. So, sometimes these are slur. Okay, and people would react. In the process of reacting, yon, nagkakaisa ngayon. Nagiging conscious ang mga Igorots from that kind of bonding and collaborating together against a perceived injustice or prejudice. They're able to realize that they can have something, that they can do something, and that can create them a regional identity. Even those who have resisted to be called Igorots at one point, that is the Kalingas and the Ifugaos. Ito na yung sinasabi ko kanina, some of us here did not right away accept the term we are Igorots. So Kalingas and Ifugaos have stood in defense of Igorot integrity while ascribing themselves as one later on. Okay, so nahuli sila to have realized this. Hindi sa ayaw nila ang term, but they also like to be known as Ifugaos in Kalingas. Okay? They like to be known as Kalingas, they like to be known as Ifugao. So, hindi naman nila minamasama ang term na Igorot. Okay, they would also like to be known as Kalingas, they would like to be known as Ifugaos. But later on today, nare-realize natin na, regardless of how we would like to be identified distinctly by virtue of our location, our settlements, well, we can still be called Igorots. Okay. There is then a growing acceptability of the labels ascribed to them, owing to the expanded understanding of the administrative and the geopolitical delineation of the government, and of course, the labels that were being ascribed to them. Okay, so slowly, natatanggap-tanggap na, okay, na maging Igorot. Ganon din, actually, may ano rin ngayon, may process din ngayon. From Igorots, tawagin na natin ang ating sarili Cordillerans, hindi na siya Igorot. Okay, medyo nag-undergo pa ng process. There are those of us who would like to maintain we are Igorots, and then Cordillerans. Hindi naman masama na tawagin ang sariling Cordillerans, pero we would not like to miss out our identity as Igorots. Meron naman yung nagsasabi, hindi na tayo Igorot, Cordillera na tayo. Lalong-lalo na yung Igorot, nakapag-asawa ng Bisaya, nakapag-asawa ng hindi Igorot, mga ganyan. Tapos, yung mga anak nila, nag-asawa ng iba-iba din. So, anong tawag sa'yo? Okay? So, Cordilleran na. Hindi na lang Igorots because the others are not by blood Igorots. Okay? Yung napangasawa. Diba? This was further strengthened by common aspirations and quest for self-governance as reflected for the common cause for Cordillera Regional Autonomy. It provides them an option for a more neutral label but retains integrity of their identity as a people. So wala pa because we're still processing yung pag-migrate natin sa regional autonomy. Okay? So nasa process pa tayo. There is then a growing acceptability of the labels ascribed to them. The acceptability of a regional identity was of recent memory. It was just lately na naipamulat sa atin na let's create a regional identity. Because all the while we thought ang regional identity natin is Igorot. But now, in the Cordillerans, may mga hindi Igorot but they identify themselves as Cordillerans because they have already been residing here at least 10 years already, more than 10 years. I'm trying to look for the document because it stated that to define that you're a Cordilleran, you have to have resided in the Cordillera region for at least 10 years, okay, before you can be called a Cordillera. Thus, okay, the ascription was actually a cognizance of the people's joint assertion. Thus, the new label becomes more reputable and truly acceptable among the people. What does that mean? Okay, migrating to the term Cordillerans would more or less become inclusive. And it is not necessarily, so exclusive. If you call yourself Igorot, that might be very exclusive. Without necessarily discriminating those who are not Igorots, but sometimes if you are so emphatic of your being an exclusive Igorot, it might create animosity for those who are not Igorot, and yet they are residing in the Cordillera, and yet they have embraced being a Cordilleran and gradually trying to learn in inculturate themselves in the culture of the Cordilleras. As it is already an adequate ascription among the people and by the people, it is inevitably the regional identity. Yan. So, yung being Cordillerans. Okay. So, conclusions. Okay, I'm already in the last part of my discussion. What have we seen about cultural, cultural heritage? The knowledge systems, practices, settlements, and institutions that have been developed since time immemorial that may be advanced presently and that are safeguarded for the future by the people who ascribe themselves as Cordillerans are what form are what we collectively, my apology for the technical error, are what we collectively term as Cordillera heritage. So there is what you call Cordillera heritage. Since this is a conclusion, we are emphasizing the details of the topics we discussed earlier in trying to do some clinching statements here. Okay. All right. Another. These are both a product and a process that affirms and reproduces cultural identity of Cordillerans, considered an important part of their character and is rooted from the past, put together in the present, and conferred for the benefit of future generations. Okay. It is noteworthy that such heritage withstand the test of time, Cordillera heritage, is empirical in the contemporary and imminent world and marks importance in the history of our civilizations. I already explained that last time. Okay. And finally, underscoring their communities' shared values and the unconscious victory of defending their ways of life together, we can now conclude that indeed there is something we call Tawid Cordillera. And that is what we need to continue to learn. That is what we need to continue to uphold. And that is what we need to continue to take pride in. Tawid Cordillera or Cordillera heritage. Okay, so that ends my recorded lecture for today. And stand by for the next set of lectures, either already in the class or face-to-face or recorded lecture just as well. Okay, so again, if there are things that you took note, there are things that are still, so complicated for you to look into or understand, that still confuses you in the discussions that we made today here in this recorded lecture, please always keep in touch with me using the contact details I gave you in the classroom last time, okay, for me to pick up your feedback. And it all depends on the nature of your query. I can reply you through the contact details, or I may give another lecture to give a systematic response to all the queries, or integrate that in our review before we proceed with the new lecture later on. So with that, again, have a nice day. I hope this discussion has more or less give you or given you insights, clarified insights on what we call Tawid Cordillera or cultural heritage, Cordillera cultural heritage. God bless everyone. You always take care and see you soon in our face-to-face classes. Thank you very much.